Could the
I am sorry, but that's a very short comment from the Parliamentary Secretary.
I want to thank my honourable colleague who's always taking a leadership role when it comes to science and evidence and academic research in this House, and having this government support that very effort. You can be sure, and he can be sure, Madam Speaker, that we will continue listening to the experts, listening to the scientists, keeping Canada in the front row when it comes to beating this disease.
Right on. Statements by members. Déclaration des députés, the honourable member for Parkdale High Park.
Madam Speaker, prior to my election, I had the opportunity to work with the United Nations, prosecuting crimes against humanity and genocide at the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. The legal standard for establishing genocide is a high one, as it must be for the most heinous crime known to humanity. I'm saddened to indicate that it is genocide which appears to be taking place today in China. A set of studies by the Subcommittee on International Human Rights demonstrates clearly that 2 million Uyghur Muslims are being detained in modern-day concentration camps, unable to speak their language or practice their faith. This is the largest mass detention of a community since the Holocaust. What's more, Uyghur Muslims are being subjected to horrific abuses, including forced sterilization and abortions. The UN Genocide Convention is clear. When you impose measures intended to prevent births within a group, you are committing an act of genocide. This is happening in China right now, Madam Speaker, under our watch. I will not stand for it, nor should any member of this House. Thank you.
Honourable member for Chatham-Kent-Leamington.
338 members of Parliament have the honour and privilege and responsibility of representing Canadians in this chamber. This work would not be possible without the capable support we receive from staff. Especially since the outbreak of COVID-19, our staff have been essential in delivering services to our constituents. I pay particular tribute to George Pasevich, who since beginning work on the Hill in 1976 has served 9 MPs and MPPs in more than 40 years of experience. He has dedicated a career to serving others by amplifying the constituent's voice through the din and maze of democracy. His innate political acumen provides wise counsel to his employer, and I am just the latest member of Parliament to benefit from his experience. George is also passionate about kites, kite history, and he's an avid collector. He enthusiastically shares his joy of flying kites with the community through hosting free events like the recent South Point Kites and Lights Weekend. George, thank you for your community service in so many different ways.
The honourable member for West Vancouver, Sunshine Coast, Sea to Sky Country, West Vancouver.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. During this year's Small Business Week, we recognize the resilience small business has shown through this pandemic. Small businesses are the heart of our communities and the backbone of the Canadian economy, and this year they've stepped up more than ever. Broonwood Distillery in Roberts Creek is one of many distilleries in my riding that started making hand sanitizer to help keep us safe. When tourism bus travel stopped, Squamish Connector partnered with Popperide to help commuters travel, and Whistler Connection pivoted their business to delivering food to the most vulnerable. As we look to build back better, our chambers and BIAs are providing leadership. The Ambleside-Dunderave Business Improvement Association, in particular, is helping provide the vision that will make our community of West Vancouver thrive going forward. Madam Speaker, this is why it's so important to shop local. Our communities go as our small businesses go, and our government will continue to be there to support them through the wage subsidy, rental assistance, and no-interest loans, just as they've been there to support us.
The honourable député d'Abitibi, Bay James.
The honourable member for Abitibi, Bay James, Nunavik. Madam Speaker, I would like to congratulate Madame Josette Pelletier, decorated with the Order of Val d'Or, the highest distinction bestowed by the town of Val d'Or. She is an exceptional volunteer in the area. Over the years, she's been involved in many organizations, like the Farmers Market, the Music and Dance Center, and the Chamber of Commerce. She is well known for her work in Val d'Or, both at the community and economic levels. For more than 20 years, she's been working at the Main Street Corporation, which has brought a wind of change to the Val d'Or downtown area. The revitalization projects on 3rd Avenue are one of her sources of great pride in her volunteer work, but also the projects at Bourg-Lamaque and the construction of Parc Albert Dumais. On my own behalf and on behalf of my colleagues, I would like to thank Madame Pelletier for her hard work. Without you, Val d'Or wouldn't be the same. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The honourable member for Glengarry Prescott Russell. Madam Speaker, we all know that 2020 isn't the year we were expecting. This week is Small Business Week, and today I would like to recognize all the Canadians who every day choose to buy local and who every day choose to support small businesses. I would like to pay tribute to the hard work of the people of Glengarry, Prescott, Russell in the local economy. And today I would like to recognize an initiative of the Prescott Russell Chamber of Commerce. They have created a program called $1 de la Chambre, which is an alternative to gift certificates that can be spent in local businesses. That means that our money will be spent in our own region to help our businesses.
We encourage all residents of Glengarry, Prescott, Russell to support our local businesses and shop local. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Prince Albert.
Madam Speaker, over 4,200 Canadians have cystic fibrosis. Unfortunately, one of the most promising treatments for CF is not available in Canada because of regulatory uncertainty that this Liberal government has introduced into Canada's patented drug market. Trikafta is a drug that has potential to treat 90% of CF patients and is a lifeline that is available both in the US and UK, but not here in Canada. I recently met with a mother in my riding who suffers from CF, and she is terrified because she is at risk of severe COVID-related complications. Her doctor believes she would greatly benefit from Trikafta. On behalf of my constituents and all Canadians with CF, I am asking the Minister of Health to take to heart the plight of these people and do what needs to be done and bring Trikafta here to Canada.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby North.
Mr. Speaker, this year we're celebrating Small Business Week a little differently by focusing on the tremendous strength and resilience that small business owners have shown throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. When the pandemic hit, our government needed to act like an entrepreneur, rolling out innovative new programs to save millions of jobs and protect household budgets across the country, and we had to do it in record time. Programs like the Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy has been successful because of the engagement and feedback from business people across the country. Just last week, the Prime Minister and I sat down with Steve's Poke Bar. This outstanding local business shared their thoughts about how our government support programs have worked for small businesses. We incorporated feedback from meetings like these into our most recent changes for the wage subsidy, the rent subsidy, and the emergency bank account. Mr. Speaker, small businesses create jobs and support families right across the country. It is important to acknowledge the people and the families behind these businesses and to let them know that Canada has their back during this crisis.
Honourable Member for Ottawa West Nepean.
Mr. Speaker, I recently met with the Canadian Centre for Women's Empowerment, a volunteer-led organization focused on the issue of economic abuse against women in domestic relationships. While many people understand the impact of physical violence and verbal and psychological abuse, it is less often discussed about economic abuse. While 95% of women who experience domestic abuse also experience economic abuse, it can also occur on its own. Abus économique peut inclure le...
Economic abuse can include preventing someone from accessing a bank account, getting someone into debt without their knowledge, or not letting them work or study. Economic abuse creates barriers to exiting violent relationships and can persist for a long time after the end of the relationship. As we see all too often, women from marginalized groups are disproportionately affected.
I want to thank the Canadian Centre for Women's Empowerment for their hard work in raising awareness about this very important issue. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Yorkton Melville.
Speaker, for over 7 months, our country has been gripped by this global pandemic, and we've done our best to help the government provide the compassionate support Canadians need to take care of their families. But there's a problem. We have not seen the same compassion for Canada's veterans from this Liberal government. Sean Dean devoted nearly 3 decades of his life to service for our country. He applied for his veterans pension over a year ago and was recently informed that his application was now in a 64-week decision phase. That's at least 2 years waiting to receive the pension he has earned and deserves. Thousands of veterans are waiting for help with physical injuries and need mental health care for themselves and their loved ones. The benefits backlog now stands at 50,000, an increase of 60% within the last 3 years. The PBO has said that VAC can dig itself out of its hole by doubling its current hiring plans and implementing the simplified online application that this Liberal government announced 5 years ago. Our veterans deserve better.
The Honourable Member for Northwest Territories.
Mr. Speaker, Secret Path Week marks the dates that both Channing Wenjack and Gord Downey passed. Channing Wenjack was a 12-year-old boy who died of exposure while attempting to get back home to his family from residential school. Secret Path Week is about creating a national platform to have conversations, learn about Indigenous culture, and create awareness about true history regarding residential schools. The Downey Wenjack Foundation has implemented legacy school programs in over 1,300 schools in every province and territory in Canada. We urge all parliamentarians and all Canadians to answer Gord Downey's call to action to do something by supporting reconciliation to further the conversation about the history of residential schools. Thank you.
The honourable member for Chilliwack Hope.
Jacob Bradenhoff is a childhood cancer survivor. 2 years ago, he was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, and he endured a painful leg amputation and 17 difficult rounds of chemo. But neither cancer nor COVID could keep Jacob down. Last month, he and his family organized a Pedal for Hope team to raise funds for the Terry Fox Foundation, completing a 100-kilometer bike ride through my riding of Chilliwack Hope with Jacob leading the way. He started out with a goal to raise $20,000, but vastly underestimated the impact that his courage to come back has had on the people who know him and who have followed his story. To date, Jacob's team has raised over $110,000. Jacob and his family have seen many kids that they knew and loved die from this beast of a disease, and they want to do what they can to raise money and awareness in hopes that less children will lose their lives to cancer. To them I say, well done, and we are all on Jacob's team.
The honourable member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Mr. Speaker, when this government was elected in 2015, they claimed gender parity was important to them. Yet, as is true with all of this Prime Minister's promises to women, he has failed to deliver. Analysis shows that over 70% of Canadians appointed to the Order of Canada last year were men. In comparison, in 2015, under the previous Conservative government, the balance was almost 50-50. On this side of the House, we truly recognize the value and experience women bring to the table. As someone who personally nominated a strong, smart, well-qualified female for the Order of Canada and received no response from this government, I am very much aware that they had worthy women to consider. Claiming to believe in equality is nothing more than condescension if their claims are not backed up with action. Canadian women deserve equal treatment from their government. Why? Because it's 2020.
The honourable member for Winnipeg Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. More than 40,000 Canadians have signed a petition to support Motion 46, which calls on the federal government to replace the CERB with a permanent guaranteed livable basic income while strengthening our current and future government public services and programs. If there was ever a time to do this, it is now. Support for Motion 46 crosses party lines. Many colleagues in the House have supported Motion 46 along with senators, PTOs, and organizations from across the country. Income guarantees are not a new concept in Canada. OAS, for example, but it is not livable and leaves many behind. Students, disabled persons, refugees, temporary foreign workers, people dealing with serious mental health and trauma issues. We must uphold our Canadian Charter and ensure that all people are able to live with dignity and human rights in Canada. Governing is about choices. We cannot afford not to care for people at this critical juncture. We must divest from corporate welfare and invest in people. Time to support Motion 46.
L'honorable député de Thérèse de
The honourable member for Thérèse de Blainville. Mr. Speaker, today I rise to draw attention to people living with multiple sclerosis. Mr. Beauséjour and Mr. Lanto, in my writing, have drawn my attention to the reality of people who are living with this illness daily, an illness that often prevents them from keeping their job. More than 60% of people with MS may find themselves on unemployment at some time in their lives. And Canada has one of the highest rates of MS in the world. Do I need to remind this government that this House adopted a Bloc Québécois motion to raise EI sickness benefits from 15 to 50 weeks? It is high time that the government take action to help workers fighting with this serious chronic illness. The honourable member for Bellechasse, Les Échemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, 6 years ago, warrant officer Patrice Vincent was killed at Saint-Jean-de-Richelieu simply because he was wearing his Canadian Armed Forces uniform.
A 4-year-old father was gunned down while standing guard at the foot of the Canadian National War Memorial to pay tribute to our brave veterans. The killer would then enter Parliament to sow terror, but was very courageously neutralized by our security officer, for which we are eternally grateful. Ces attaques brutales perpétrées par
These brutal attacks perpetrated by radicalized individuals, radicalized by Islamic extremism, remind us of our vulnerability. But Canadians showed remarkable resiliency. The next day, all parliamentarians were back in the House to take up their work once again and keep our democracy thriving. Today, let us pay tribute to these two Canadian heroes, and let us continue to support their values of freedom and duty, the pillars of our Canadian identity.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Louis Hébert. Mr. Speaker, Small Business Week will end on the 24th. I would like to pay tribute to the resiliency shown by entrepreneurs throughout the country, and specifically in my riding, in all parts of my riding. I would like to specifically mention one of the pizza businesses in my riding that has done a remarkable job. This has been an extremely difficult period for small business. The government is helping small businesses, whether with the wage subsidy or the GST payment period extension. Our government has been there with these and other measures. But we need more than government assistance. We need to show solidarity and work together. And as the holidays approach, we need to support our local business owners to help them survive the pandemic, and so that together we can come out of the pandemic with better consumption habits.
Oral questions. Question orale. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, after weeks of Conservatives demanding the government develop a strategy for rapid COVID-19 testing, some tests finally arrived yesterday. The problem is 100,000 tests is more of a sample than a supply. They will be used up in 3 days, Mr. Speaker. Other countries have had access to millions of rapid tests for months. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister let the Health Committee find out why Canada is at the back of the line when it comes to rapid tests?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is not at the back of the line, and let me refresh the memories of the members opposite on the 5 rapid tests that we have already authorized. The B-Kit virus finder from Hirus, the BD Veritor system from Becton Dixon & Company, the Abbott ID Now, the Abbott PanBio, the Expert Express from Cepheid. More tests are being looked at by our regulators every single day, and they are arriving in Canada every day, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's Global Public Health Intelligence Network was a global leader in pandemic warning before this government turned it off last year. Even after that decision, multiple departments of the government were warning them that they had to take COVID more seriously. But the government got it wrong on human-to-human transmission. They got it wrong on the border. They got it wrong on masks. Mr. Speaker, why is the Prime Minister denying Canadians the opportunity to learn the lessons from the first wave so that we can be better prepared to protect Canadians?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me again remind the members opposite of the prompt action our government took as this novel coronavirus hit the world. On January 2nd, PHAC spoke directly with all provincial health authorities. On January 14th, PHAC convened a meeting of all provincial health authorities. On January 27th, we had increased screening at major airports. On January 27th, we also convened the Incident Response Group. On January 28th, we convened the Special Advisory Committee of Chief Public Health Officers across the country, and I can and will go on.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the trouble is, 2 months after those dates, the health minister of the country was still saying there was nothing to worry about, Mr. Speaker. Countless contracts for PPE and other supplies have been held behind national security designations. After the Frank Baylis affair, we can all understand why. But the motion before the House to allow the Health Committee to look at the process will make sure Canadian healthcare workers get the best equipment and that taxpayers get value for money. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister let the Health Committee do what it's supposed to do and make sure that we put the health of Canadians ahead of contracts for Liberal MPs?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to take this opportunity to address very directly the insinuation at the heart of that question. The suggestion that our government, in those dark days in the spring, when we came together as a country to fight this novel global pandemic, was focused on anything other than protecting the health and safety of Canadians, working closely with the provinces, territories, and municipalities is simply untrue, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I'm inclined to believe the Deputy Prime Minister, but when they continually cover up, when they prorogue Parliament, when her colleague Mr. Morneau resigns, when they delay committees, when they threaten elections, pardon me, Mr. Speaker, if I don't believe her sincerity. Canadians want answers. Will the Deputy Prime Minister put the health of Canadians first and vote with us for a Health Committee study on COVID-19?
Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me clear up a couple of things. The first is I always put the health and safety of Canadians first. And let me say something else. I really believe that every single member of this House does the same thing. I know that we disagree on a number of policy issues, but I really believe we are all here to serve Canadians. We understand this is a moment of national crisis, and I really hope we can continue to put the national interest first, as we did when we voted unanimously for the EI CRB changes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, a lot of cover-up from this government. Journalists are asking the Liberal government questions on the Frank Baylis ventilator contract. No answers. Now journalists want Mr. Baylis to explain himself, but Mr. Baylis is refusing to take calls and not responding to his door. Are the Liberals ashamed of supporting millionaire friends during a pandemic? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I want to give a very exact answer with regard to Mr. Baylis. There is no contract between PSPC and Baylis Medical. Following the recommendation of an expert advisory panel, representatives of PHAC gave a contract. There is no link between public procurement and Baylis. The Honourable Member for Beloeil-Chambly. Thank you. The French community and the Americans is often subject to hate speech, but it doesn't seem like much compared to what the visible minorities sometimes have to bear on a daily basis. It's time for solidarity and to commit to a better society. It starts with the recognition, science, and the critical analysis, but the use of a word that history has conferred a humiliating, racist, or degrading meaning is doing so in a university setting where analysis is important to be prohibited. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government is unequivocal. Anti-Black racism is unacceptable. We cannot remain silent when there is injustice. We must come together and listen to the experiences lived by our fellow Canadians and take action. The Honourable Member for Avignon-La Métis-Matane, Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, the university is a place of higher learning, a place privileged for debate and analysis. What is the significance of a word? What does it mean to those hearing it? What weight does it have today and historically? If there is anywhere that such discussions need to happen, it's in the universities with the freedom needed to share that knowledge. Academic freedom means first asking difficult questions with specific care to individual sensitivities without censure. Will the Prime Minister defend academic freedom at the University of Ottawa or not? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, obviously, our government, and I think every member of this House, will defend academic freedom. I am here with many professors. I respect universities a great deal and academics. It is a difficult thing. We must be aware of the reality, and that is what we are doing. There is systemic racism in our country, and we must take action to this. The Honourable Member for Burnaby South. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is no drinking water in the Neskantaga First Nation. The Neskantaga Nation has not had access to drinking water for 25 years. Imagine not having access to drinking water for that period of time. 25 years, no water to wash your hands, no water to take a bath in. This situation is terrible. The Prime Minister promised drinking water, but he broke his promise. When will Neskantaga First Nation have access to drinking water? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for the question. For our government, the issue of First Nations and drinking water around the country is a priority. We have worked on this, and we have made a lot of progress, but I agree with the MP that we still have much work to be done. We will do it together with the First Nations leaders around the country.
South. Mr. Speaker, what's happening right now in the First Nation of Neskantaga is an example, a representation of the abject failure of this government and of previous Conservative governments to address a basic question of access to drinking water. The people of this community are being evacuated. Seniors are being evacuated. Chief Munoz describes the situation like this. He says, "Why is this not a public health emergency? Are we not important? Are we not human? When will the community get access to clean drinking water?"
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member opposite for that very important question. And I really believe that we as Canadians understand that it is a national outrage that there are drinking water advisories still for Indigenous communities in our country. This problem was not created in a day, and it's not going to be resolved in a day. But what I will say is this: our government has worked hard and has had some success. It's not enough, and I am very happy to recommit today to the effort to ensure all communities in Canada have water fit to drink.
Honourable Deputy. Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the government prevented Parliament from doing its job. We wanted to create a special committee on allegations of Liberal corruption. Instead, they said, no, we have to deal with the pandemic. Okay. Ask and ye shall receive. Today we're tabling a motion to unfreeze the Standing Committee on Health, and we're asking the government produce all important documents related to the pandemic. Now that the government's demands have been met, we want to know if the government will cooperate with us and support our motion. The Honourable Deputy or Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, yesterday this House decided Canadians instead of petty politics, chose Canadians instead of petty politics. I know the Conservatives are quite disappointed we're not going to election today, but we're not. And it's an excellent opportunity for the government and, in fact, all parliamentarians to continue to work for Canadians. You know, Mr. Speaker, The government has an extremely important obligation to Canadians, but the opposition parties do so as well. We are working together. Let's work together for Canadians. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-La-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, it is our duty to ensure that taxpayer dollars are being used effectively and distributed effectively. So stories such as the one we heard about with Frank Baylis should not be heard anymore. We need to be more careful. With our motion, we want to end parliamentary filibustering by the Liberals on the Standing Committee on Health. When will the government let us do our jobs and give us the documents? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, in fact, we want to work with the opposition parties and with each of the opposition parties. That is our goal and has been since the beginning, and we managed to do that a number of times. You can remember all the times that we had unanimous consent or the support of one party or another party in the opposition. That's what's essential for somebody who lost their job, for a mother who is concerned because her kids can't go to school, and for all Canadians. So my hand is held out. It remains held out. Let's work together in the interest of Canadians.
Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, I've been really heartened as a parliamentarian to see collaboration with opposition parties on coming up with a very common sense, nonpartisan motion to review the government's response to COVID-19 so we can chart a firm path forward to get people back to work while keeping people safe. Government isn't so willing. Look, we've likely got the support of opposition parties. So in the spirit of collaboration, I'm asking the health minister, because she said that a 15-day timeline was not reasonable to produce documents in a scrum earlier today. What is a reasonable timeline?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Honourable member for her question, and certainly that's something that I've communicated with the House Leader that should be negotiated. Look, the government is willing to work with the opposition to come up with a timeline that is reasonable, that will get to the goal of understanding what we need to do going forward. Mr. Speaker, I think the member opposite is right, that when we work together, Canadians appreciate it and our response is stronger.
Honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Here's the problem, Mr. Speaker. The minister has had 2 weeks to answer this question because this motion was presented to the Health Committee nearly 2 weeks ago. So the fact that she can't walk into her staff's office and go, hey, what's a reasonable timeline over a 2-week period really belies this government's overall response to COVID and her approach to her staff, which has been slow, incompetent, and costly to Canadian lives. So I'm going to ask her one more time. She's had 4 hours since I asked her this morning, 2 weeks since it was originally moved. What is a reasonable timeline for the production of these documents?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I mean, first I have to take umbrage with defining our civil servants, our staff members who have been working day and night around the clock as slow and incompetent. Mr. Speaker, I think we all can rise above that kind of language and appreciate just how hard everyone in government, in opposition, are working to make sure that Canadians have a response that protects them. But, Mr. Speaker, listen, the member opposite also knows that health committees are independent, and of course that is something that she needs to work through with the Health Committee and their chair.
Honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
This is the interesting thing, Mr. Speaker. Today, in an article by Dylan Robertson from the Winnipeg Free Press, we found out that less than half of federal Freedom to Information offices are operating at full capacity, including the Health Ministry. This means that there's people whose actual job it is to produce information for Parliament are sitting at home. I wonder what we could do with them. It's interesting. Maybe they could produce some documents for Parliament. I don't know. What does the minister think?
Great question. The Honourable Minister.
Again, Mr. Speaker, we hear from the opposition a demeaning of the civil servants who I can attest have been working around the clock to ensure that they have what we need for Canadians as we respond to this pandemic. Mr. Speaker, we have used every available resource to make sure that Health Canada and the Public Health Agency of Canada have what they need so that they can support provinces, territories, indeed Canadians. And Mr. Speaker, we will continue to put the health and safety of Canadians first and foremost in our response.
The Honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, it's this incompetence that's costing Canadians their lives. It's these excuses that are keeping businesses shut. It's this just lack of disregard for Canadians' lives, our plan forward, that is keeping women out of the workforce because daycares are closed, because we don't have rapid tests. This has to stop. The motion that we have before Parliament today is nonpartisan. It's getting information that Canadians need so that we can move forward out of this pandemic. What timeline is the minister proposing to produce these documents?
Honourable Minister.
I've spoken to hundreds, if not thousands, of Canadians since the pandemic was first announced, and in fact when the COVID-19 has arrived on our shores. And in fact, not once has a Canadian asked me to put more resources into freedom of information officers. In fact, what they've asked me for is to ensure that all the resources of Canada are devoted on one thing, Mr. Speaker, and that's the health, safety, and economic prosperity of our country. And Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue to make sure that Canada has the most robust response possible. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, we know that you Liberals are using COVID to line their pals' pockets. There weren't enough ventilators in the first wave, and the Liberals wanted to make some using Frank Baylis. They know that it wouldn't look good. He was a Liberal MP just last year ago, and they're friends. So they didn't give their friend Frank the money directly. Even they didn't think that would be okay. They gave $237 million to FTI, a shell company created just 7 days earlier. The problem is that FTI does not make ventilators. So, plot twist, they hired their friend Frank as a contractor. Real winners. Are they thinking that it's all a joke? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for the question. Since the beginning of the pandemic, Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada launched a request for proposals from Canadian manufacturers to meet medical needs, urgent medical needs. After a study by an expert panel, the government gave contracts for the national production of ventilators. There is no contract with Baylis Medical. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, that's what they say. The Liberals gave without a request for proposal, thus gives us a reminder of something that happened recently. $237 million to FTI, a company that didn't exist 7 days ago. They said that they needed to have ventilators produced, but FTI doesn't make ventilators. FTI told the Liberals, we know somebody who knows somebody, and the Liberals say, okay, here's your check. Strange coincidence. That someone was a former Liberal MP. Mr. Speaker, if I incorporate and pay $1,000 to do so, can I get $200 million next Thursday? Or does that just work for Liberal friends and Liberal pals? The Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to reiterate that our government has stepped up to ensure domestic production of ventilators when at the beginning of this pandemic, there was no domestic production of ventilators here in Canada. The president of the Auto Parts Manufacturers Association, in fact, said firms from across this country dropped everything to help save lives by making critical medical goods. Every political stripe, we all did this together, Mr. Speaker. This is important. This is Canada, and this is domestic production. Merci beaucoup.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals knew that it would look bad to give $237 million to Liberal Frank Baylis, so they went through a shell company that transferred the money to him. They also knew it would look bad to give a $900 million program to their friends at We Charity when the organization was in debt up to its neck. But they did the same thing. They signed with We Charity Foundation, a shell company that had no debt because it had no operations. The Liberals are using shell companies to give their friends contracts. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to repeat the question my leader asked. Do they take us for fools? The Honourable Minister.
The Honourable Minister.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, pas du tout. Ce n'est pas la...
Not at all, Mr. Speaker. This is not the case. No. Our government has committed to the domestic production of personal protective equipment and ventilators, and we will not stop because this is extremely important for Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, because this Liberal government is taking so long to provide rapid testing to Canadians, the Manitoba government took the initiative to procure these rapid tests for Manitobans on their own, but this Liberal government blocked them from doing so. They wouldn't allow them. Meanwhile, John Pritchard School and Birds Hill School in my riding in the Winnipeg area have had large COVID-19 outbreaks. Manitobans deserve and need rapid testing now, and we just learned this week that the Liberals have received 100,000 rapid tests. So I want to know how many of these tests are coming to Manitoba and when?
Good question. Minister of Health.
One of the things that has really helped Canada in our response to the pandemic has been the collaboration with provinces and territories and the work together that we've done to prioritize and to distribute, whether it's PPE, tests, and other equipment to Canadians. In fact, through the table of health ministers, we've managed to work out sharing agreements every single time, Mr. Speaker, that work for provinces and territories, that address the needs in their communities, and that ensure that we have the capacity no matter what COVID-19 throws at us.
The Honourable Member for Kootenay, Columbia.
Mr. Speaker, Air Canada on October 1st purchased 25,000 rapid testing kits approved by Health Canada, so Air Canada could test international travellers, and when negative for COVID, no 14-day quarantine. Canada relies significantly on tourism from outside, from international. Mr. Speaker, can the Minister explain why they have not given Air Canada approval for this Health Canada-approved rapid testing moving forward with economic recovery safely?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think there's a lot of presumptions in that question that might not be quite accurate. In fact, Air Canada is actually conducting a research study with McMaster University right now on trying to determine when someone could receive a test in order to reduce the 14-day quarantine period. In fact, it's exciting to note that the province of Alberta is working in partnership with the Government of Canada on a very similar research project, Mr. Speaker, just announced today. And these kinds of research projects are going to help us ensure the goal of reducing importations while also looking at ways that we can reduce the quarantine. Mr. Speaker, I will remind Canadians, though, the 14-day quarantine still is applying today.
The Honourable Member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Mr. Speaker, a local constituent reached out to me about how their families' lives have been on hold due to COVID-19 testing. The dad called the testing center on October 3rd. They went in for testing on October 6th, the first available day. The dad received his test results on October 7th, and the daughters came in on October 12th. This was a 10-day process for this family. The daughter wasn't able to go to school. The dad was not able to work. This is unacceptable. When are regions like the Okanagan Valley and the Lower Mainland going to receive rapid testing?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I've been in regular conversations with medical officers of health across the country, including Dr. Henry. I have to congratulate BC. They've had an incredible testing strategy. They have obviously challenges, just like every other province and territory. But, Mr. Speaker, I would encourage the member opposite to get in touch with her MLA and ask about BC's testing strategy and how it's evolving.
Honourable Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Students and graduates in my riding of Edmonton Strathcona are struggling to make their ends meet. Students couldn't get summer jobs because of COVID-19. Recent graduates can't get jobs to kickstart their futures. This Liberal government promised close to $1 billion to help students. Instead, they help their friends at WE. And the students have received none of this money. This government could help students right now with rent, with tuition fees, with groceries. Liberals owe students this money. When will they ensure that the funding goes to students who need it the most?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the member for the question. And I think I should remind all Canadians and all members that it was actually a $9 billion plan that our government put forward for students and youth. And that plan included the Canada Emergency Student Benefit, of which 700,000 students were able to obtain that benefit. Canada Summer Jobs were increased. 84,000 jobs were approved and are still ongoing until February. So I'd encourage students to keep applying. We doubled Canada Student
student grants for full and part-time students. We instituted a 6-month moratorium for interest as well as payment on Canada student loans. We made investments to ensure that...
Honourable Member for Churchill-Kiiwetinoong-Aski.
Mr. Speaker, it's not enough for the Transport Minister to abandon workers, but he also has to gaslight passengers. He tweeted his congratulations to WestJet for issuing refunds to some passengers with canceled tickets when he literally spent 7 months backing up the airlines. Thousands of passengers have been left waiting. The agency he's responsible for issued a statement on vouchers that rips passengers off directly. Enough with the hypocrisy. Will the government finally take action and step up to defend the rights of all passengers and Canadian consumers?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm certainly aware of the frustration that many consuming passengers have felt, and the action taken by WestJet is a good step in the right direction. I know it's an important issue for Canadians. At the same time, the pandemic has hit hard with the air sector, and that's why we're working on measures to try to ensure that Canadians will be able to continue traveling safely and affordably across this country. And for the information of my colleague, the Canadian Transportation Agency doesn't come under Transport Canada.
Honourable Member for Guelph.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've seen employment numbers in my riding rebound to 75% of pre-pandemic numbers. And we've witnessed small businesses changing and innovating their delivery model to continue serving their customers and our community. At the same time, we know more support will be needed in 2021. Could the Minister of Small Business, Export Promotion and International Trade update the House on our government's work to support small business in the coming months as we celebrate Small Business Week?
Minister for Small Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my honourable colleague for that excellent question here during Small Business Week. Small businesses in Guelph and across the country have shown incredible resilience and are working hard in their communities. We're helping thousands of small businesses enhance their digital and e-commerce capabilities. Going digital will enable our small businesses to access the global markets, to export, find new customers, and take advantage of Canada's free trade agreements. We're going to do what is right to keep supporting our small businesses during these very difficult times. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, after more than 6 months, the public inquiry into the Nova Scotia mass murder still hasn't started. In all their grief and loss, victims' families are still pleading with this government. A Nova Scotian says it's, quote, another unkind injury to those surviving the awful shooting. Families are being ignored and abandoned by these Liberals. Now, they're forced to ask for the inquiry to include the reasons for the delay that has victimized them even more. Will the minister commit to families that they'll get the answers that they deserve, or will he make them struggle through pain and even more delays?
Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this is a very timely question because the Government of Canada and Nova Scotia announced their intent to establish a comprehensive joint public inquiry on July 28th. And today, Mr. Speaker, that inquiry has now been established by order in council and the commissioners have begun their work. The joint public inquiry commissioners' first task is setting up their secretariat, which will be located in Nova Scotia. It includes hiring support staff, establishing a budget, and creating a work plan. They will have been asked to submit 2 reports to the Government of Canada and Nova Scotia on their findings, lessons learned, and recommendations, an interim report by May 1st, 2022. And, Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to also announce that the name of the 3rd commissioner appointed to undertake this inquiry has been named. Dr. Kim Stanton has accepted the position of Inquiry Commissioner.
The honourable member for Lakelands.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I don't know if this minister has been the loved one of a murder victim, but I have. And he should be ashamed that these victims' families have had to struggle and to wait so long. It has increased their harm and their hurt. And he didn't answer the question. So if he won't give a straight answer to Conservatives, will he at least tell the families of these murder victims exactly on what date the inquiry will start, and will it include all of the reasons for the delays that have victimized them even more?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I actually have far too much experience in my life dealing with families and victims of violent crime, including homicide. And I understand the pain of these families. They need answers. And Mr. Speaker, that's why we've established an inquiry that will not only determine what happened, but will also make recommendations that will help prevent similar tragic events in the future. Mr. Speaker, perhaps a member missed my earlier comment, but the inquiry has now begun. By order in council, it's been established, and the commissioners have begun the work of establishing their secretariat. Newly named Commissioner Kim Stanton has accepted the position, as I've said, and she joins the Honourable J. Michael MacDonald, Chief Commissioner, and Ms. Leanne Finch in doing this important work.
The Honourable Member for Brandon Souris.
Mr. Speaker, farmers who use private bank accounts are still out in the cold as they await the Minister of Small Businesses' decision to keep her promise so that they can apply for an emergency business account loan. This government has a terrible record of saying something but taking forever to deliver on it. When will the Liberals make the necessary changes so farmers that use private bank accounts can apply for a CEBA loan? It's been over 6 months, Mr. Speaker.
Minister for Small Business.
I want to thank the honourable member for that question. And those businesses, farming businesses, are absolutely important to the economy of this country. And we are working with the over 200 financial institutions to make this loan available to these businesses as soon as possible, as quickly as possible. And very soon we will announce that process to enable those businesses to get access to this important liquidity support through the small business account so that they can get access to this support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Caribou Prince George.
Speaker, the rate of suicide across our country is at near epidemic rates. Suicide is now amongst the leading cause of death in Canada. Today, 10 Canadians will end their lives by suicide, and up to another 200 will attempt to do so. The U.S. just taken concrete action to combat suicide by passing the National Suicide Hotline Designation Act. Starting in 2022, a simple, easy to remember number, 988, will be the universal telephone number to reach the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. Will this government commit to doing so?
The Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And far too many of us can say that we've been impacted by people who've taken their own lives. I want to tell the member opposite I'm very interested in his idea, and I look forward to talking with him later about what that might look like in Canada. He's absolutely right. We have to do more, Mr. Speaker, not just to prevent suicide, but to support people who are struggling with their mental health no matter where they live in this country.
The honourable for Pierre Boucher Les Patriotes. Mr. Speaker, after 7 months of bloc pressure, the government finally realized that people who bought plane tickets before the pandemic wanted to be refunded. The government announced it wants to help WestJet and Air Canada and that this would mean offering refunds. But the bloc has stepped in so that their refund will be with their own money and not that of taxpayers. Yesterday, WestJet announced it would start refunding customers. It's a good start, but when will the Minister of Transportation finally show leadership and make Air Canada finally refund its customers? The Honourable Minister of Transportation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As I said, I realize that people are very frustrated and they would like to be refunded, and that's exactly why WestJet's decision is a step in the right direction. It's an important issue for Canadians, and we expect airlines to do everything they can. At the same time, airlines were hit hard by this pandemic, and that's why we're working on measures that will ensure that Canadians will be able to continue to travel across our country safely and affordably. The Honourable for Boucher Les Patriotes. Mr. Speaker, people are so frustrated because we feel like the Minister is not listening. But before receiving any taxpayer money, Air Canada has to refund its customer for cancelled flights. But Air Canada is a pitiful corporate citizen, and Ottawa is letting it get away with this. Ottawa is letting it charge crazy prices for poor regional service. Ottawa is allowing its dumping to kill competition and it refuses to serve its customers in French. If Ottawa keeps letting Air Canada does as it pleases, it will never refund anyone. Can the Minister give Air Canada a deadline for refunds? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, as I said, we're working on measures to ensure that Canadians will be able to continue to rely on our airlines, which offer countrywide services. And all Canadians, whether those who live in the regions or it's those who live in urban centres, will always be able to count on cross-country travel that is both safe and reliable.
Melville.
Speaker, the backlog of veterans' applications for benefits is now over 50,000. Boasting an increase of $10 billion for veterans services is a slap in the face of veterans who've been waiting for years and continue to wait to be compensated for the services and the injuries they've incurred. The independent, nonpartisan parliamentary budget officer predicts VAC's hiring plan will take 2 years to reduce the backlog by 10,000, while his recommendation would wipe out the backlog completely in 1 year. So who should veterans trust? Who's got their six?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for the question. And yes, veterans truly deserve the compensation that are owed to them. In fact, Mr. Speaker, it's impossible to refund veterans exactly what we owe them. But we have, as my honourable colleague is well aware, announced $200 million that will allow to hire new staff and upgrade the process in order to make sure we're able to compensate veterans the way that we should compensate veterans. We have and will continue to repay our veterans as best we can, Mr. Speaker. But again, we owe veterans so much.
The honourable member for Richmond-Arthabasca. Mr. Speaker, after We Charity and the $237 million contract to a former Liberal MP, Frank Bayliss, for ventilators at twice the price, now we have another scandal, the partisan appointments of judges. Mr. Speaker, we're back to the same shenanigans as the Liberal sponsorship scandal. So can the Minister of Justice guarantee us that there will be no political interference in the appointment of judges? Yes or no? The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, our government has implemented important measures to ensure that the appointment of judges is transparent, and these measures also aim to encourage greater diversity amongst judges, and I am proud, Mr. Speaker, of our results. We have an efficient process. We've appointed more than 400 judges. The diversity of these appointments is unprecedented. 53% of the judges' appointment are women, Mr. Speaker, and we're going to continue to ensure that the appointment process is based on merit and is transparent. The Honourable for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Mr. Speaker, many Canadians worked very hard to pay for a vacation before the pandemic. They paid airlines more than 6 months ago without ever traveling as borders were closed due to COVID-19. It is absolutely unacceptable for Canadians to be funding airlines and travel agencies. Yes, Minister, they're frustrated. When will the Prime Minister require these companies to fully refund Canadian workers? My question is clear. When? The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As I said, I'm very aware of the fact that Canadians are frustrated. They want to have refunds rather than vouchers. And that is why WestJet's decision yesterday was a step in the right direction. And we're encouraging other airlines to do the same because we realize it's important for consumers. At the same time, airlines and airports have been hit hard by this pandemic. And that's why we're working on a global plan to make sure that we can support the airline industry to ensure ongoing air service across the country. The Honourable Member for Dorval-Lachine-LaSalle. Mr. Speaker, this month is Women's History Month, and this year is the 50th anniversary of the Royal Commission on the Status of Women. Can the Minister for Women and Gender Equality tell the House how our government is supporting women and advancing gender equality, particularly in terms of the post-COVID economic recovery? Thank you. The Minister for Women.
Mr. Speaker, in Dorval, Lachine, LaSalle, and across the country, women have borne the greatest burdens of this pandemic. On the front lines of our care systems, with work hours lost, with increases in unpaid care work, and greater vulnerability to gender-based violence. We owe it to those who have come before us to protect their hard-won gains and work with the feminist movement every step of the way. Our government will ensure that women are working, that they're safe, and that their families are cared for. Indeed, it is Canada's only path to a full recovery.
Number 4, Perth Wellington.
Mr. Speaker, on Tuesday I received an unprompted email from the Office of the Minister of Rural Economic Development stating, in its entirety, just wanted to confirm that if anything comes up on SpaceX or LEOs, even if it mentions rural broadband, is going to be handled by the Minister of Industry and QP. My minister has no levers on it and therefore doesn't have anything to say on this specific issue. Mr. Speaker, if the Minister of Rural Economic Development has nothing to say on rural broadband and has no levers on it, is this not further confirmation of the Liberal blind spot to rural Canada?
The Honourable Minister.
That my team and I staying in touch with his is the wrong thing to do? Is my honourable colleague truly suggesting that a member of parliament for mixed rural-urban riding does not understand rural Canada? I urge him to put partisanship aside. Rural Canadians are counting on us, and our entire government will be there for them.
The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Mr. Speaker, COVID-19 is exacerbating a problem in rural Canada. Right now, thousands of families are trying to access the internet. They are having affordability and connectivity issues all across my riding of Dufferin-Caledon and all across the country. We don't want to hear, my constituents don't want to hear what's been done. They don't want to hear how more fibre was put in by Stephen Harper or Sir Johnny MacDonald. They want an answer, and it's a simple answer. When? When will rural Canada be connected?
The Honourable Minister.
More fibre was put into the ground by our Prime Minister, our Liberal Prime Minister, than the previous Prime Minister. That said, Mr. Speaker, every single day, our entire team is seized by the challenges that rural Canadians and suburban Canadians experience without the access to high-speed internet and cell service. The investment announced with the Canada Infrastructure Bank will connect 3/4 more Canadians to this essential service, and we will have more to say soon.
The Honourable Member for Carlton Trail Eagle Creek.
Earlier this month, I received an email addressed to an employee who has not worked in my office for over 3 years. It was from an access to information analyst asking if we were still interested in information requested nearly 4 years ago. Mr. Speaker, through you to the Minister of Transport, in the spirit of openness and transparency, does he think it is reasonable to still be waiting for an answer 4 years later?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for her question. I'd like to say 2 important things. First, we have to make sure that information is circulated under normal conditions. It's very important. Second, our public servants are working hard since the beginning of this pandemic to meet expectations in terms of access to information, and we're going to continue to work in that direction. The member for Miramichi-Grand Lake. Mr. Speaker, it's Small Business Week, and I'd like to stress the important contribution of small business to our country. They're the backbone of the Canadian economy and employ many people in my riding of Miramichi-Grand Lake. Since the onset of this pandemic, we established programs to help employers and small businesses. Can the Minister of Small Business and Export and Trade Promotion inform the House how we will help Canadian companies once more during the second wave of the pandemic? Thank you. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, for Small Business Week, I'd like to highlight small businesses in Miramichi-Grand Lake and in New Brunswick for their hard work during this pandemic. We'll stop at nothing to help our SMEs. This week I announced a $12 million investment for the Canada United Small Business Relief Fund. Our government will be there to help SMEs.
Member for London, Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals promised universal, affordable public child care 27 years ago, 5 years ago, 1 year ago, and 2 weeks ago, but they never delivered. If only the Liberals had been government over those years. Oh wait, they were. Like other child care centres, the Garderie Tunis daycare in Ottawa has had to close suddenly. Parents still had to pay high fees for child care they're not even getting. In fact, $1,800 for just a few days of care in October. Why is child care only a priority for Liberals when they're giving speeches?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are very much committed to childcare. We have created over 40,000 affordable childcare spaces since 2015. We are still committed to ensuring that there are an additional 250,000 before and after school childcare spaces. We are on track to continue to invest $7.5 billion in childcare over the next number of years. We have reached agreements with provinces and territories. In addition to that, to answer directly my colleague's question, we've invested over $2 billion in childcare this year alone, making sure that provinces and territories in the childcare sector are resilient and emerge stronger after COVID-19 pandemic.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When we fail to understand the importance of mental health, we pay a price as society. In loss of employment, family breakdown, stress-related diseases, addiction, homelessness, and crime. Mental health care, such as counseling, should not be a luxury for those who can afford it, or a late intervention for those who are already in crisis. Will the government implement a national mental health strategy and fully include mental health care under the Canada Health Act?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I fully concur with the member opposite's assertion that we need to be focused on mental health now more than ever. Certainly, it's not a new problem, Mr. Speaker. We know that so many people struggle with mental health, even in the best of times. And during this very difficult time with loneliness, big changes to our daily practices, it's even harder. I'll work with the member opposite to make sure that Canadians get support to accesses and services, and I'll remind him about the wellnesstogether.ca portal where any Canadian could get access to mental health supports absolutely for free.
I'm afraid that's all the time we have today. C'est tout le temps qu'on a aujourd'hui.
That's all the time we have today.
La question orale. L'honorable député de Louis-Saint-Laurent.
The honourable member for Louis-Saint-Laurent. Well, I have a question regarding, as is traditional, an update on the parliamentary agenda. The last few days have been very busy. Busy in a good way for our work for Canadians. And of course today we're talking about COVID health. And the member who sponsored this motion has asked the government when we will get information about the tabling of these documents. And of course the government wants to always be talking about COVID, so could the government talk to us about the upcoming parliamentary agenda? The Honourable Leader of the Government. Well, I would just like to say that that was a very long detour to finally get to my colleague's very amiable question. Well, Mr. Speaker, today we're going to continue debate on the Conservative motion. With regard to our legislative agenda, we have several important bills to debate: medical assistance in dying, conversion therapy, judge training. More specifically, tomorrow we will begin debate on Bill C5 on National Truth and Reconciliation Day.
And starting on Monday, we will take up a second reading debate of C6 regarding conversion therapy. And also I'd like to note that Thursday, October 29th, shall be an allotted day. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll go on to government orders.